On today's episode of the Kev BKA Beloved Show, racism and the NFL playoffs, but racism. Yeah, I know, NFC Championship, AFC Championship, the Lions finally made it, Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, blah, 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 but I'll be honest, I won't be able to focus on any of that until I get this off my spirit. So last week, after Jerod Mayo, the new head coach of my favorite team, the New England Patriots, had his press conference, the world was set ablaze because he had the audacity to acknowledge the fact that he is in fact black, even though he, as clear as I am now, is in fact black and his name is Jerod. He had the audacity to acknowledge that color exists, but I'm not going to sit here and explain it to you. I'm going to play you the exact clips from the press conference with full context, because on the Kev BKA Beloved Show, we love facts and context, and I want us all to be on the same page. So we're going to do it just like this. In his opening statement, he acknowledges the fact that he's the first black head coach in the history of the New England Patriots.
And you better believe it, being the first black coach here in New England means a lot to me.
So next we'll go to the reporter's question, who asked Robert Kraft and him, what does it mean to be the first black head coach? As well as something else about asking other black head coaches for advice. I apologize to this reporter. I tried to find his name. I couldn't find it. My bad, my brother.
Jerod, congratulations.
Thank you.
Question first, Robert. Jerod said that being the first black coach was important to him. Curious, what does it mean to you? And if I could ask you, Jerod, have you reached out to any of the folks like, Tony or, Tomlin, just to get their sense of what it means to them?
You want to start it off?
All right. So now we got Jerod's opening statement. The question was based off of, and the question. Now let's get Robert Kraft's answer.
You want to start it off?
Yeah. Let me say this to you. I'm really colorblind in terms of, I know what I feel like on Sunday when we lose. And I can just tell you that there's nothing after my family, my passion is with the New England Patriots, and there's something else very close second, but winning at the Patriots is my passion. So I want to get the best people I can get. I chose the best head coach for this organization. He happens to be a man of color, but I chose him because I believe he's best to do the job.
I even let it go late, so you can see that Jerod Mayo, in fact, did not cut him off, because I kept seeing that shit too. Now let's go with Jerod Mayo's answer.
Yeah, and Mike T, he reached out. He's actually from our hometown back in Virginia as well. So we haven't really talked about the challenges. I appreciate Thunder and the organization selecting me to be a black head coach. I would say what Thunder just talked about, that was in the locker room. You want your locker room to be pretty diverse, and you would want the world to look like that. What I will say though is I do see color, because I believe if you don't see color, you can't see racism.
Up, stop the tape, because that's as far as most of you got, was that statement. But let's hear the rest of it.
And whatever happens, black, white, disabled person, I've always, even someone with disabilities, I always, for the most part, people are like, when they're young, they kind of make the spot hot. Younger people know what that means. But what I would say is, no, I want you to be able to go up to those people and really understand those people. So it goes back to whatever it is, black, white, yellow, it really doesn't matter, but it does matter so we can try to fix a problem that we all know we have.
So Patriots social media accounts, specifically the Twitter, did themselves a huge disservice by tweeting out just that quote, because they have absolutely no self-awareness of their fan base. And the moment I saw that tweet, I said, yep, I know how this is going to go. Can I read y'all a couple of these responses? The moment you click the tweet, as I just did this, the first one you see is from a woman by the name of Patriot Aaron saying, believe it or not, hating white people is racism too. Next, we have a comment on one of my videos that didn't even address the press conference. This is just the one that I just so happened to release the day the press conference came out, because my podcast released the same day the press conference was, so obviously I didn't have time to cover the press conference. Jerod Mayo is a racist. I refuse to support racism, and so I'm selling my season tickets supporting a different team. Don't support racism. I got one more for you. Because you may be thinking, oh, these are just dickheads on the internet. Oh, they're just faceless accounts. Fox News. New Pats coach rips people who don't see color. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I just played you the entire context of that clip. Was anything in those comments, did any of that make sense? Of course it didn't. Oh, and this one I kept getting. There are way too many examples of this to make in one comment. It can be summarized by this. He's there at a football conference and he's focused on race the whole time? Couple things there. One, all those clips I just played for y'all were 2 minutes and 30 seconds in total. Two, how could he not acknowledge the race thing? Was he supposed to leave his skin at home? Lastly, the press conference was 40 minutes long. The YouTube video is 39 minutes and 16 seconds. I would know how long the press conference was because I watched it live every single second of it, because that's the first time I've got to see a head coach get introduced to my team in my entire life. Even on that very same Patriots Twitter account, for you people who say he spent the entire press conference focused on race, there are 7 other clips from that same press conference where they say nothing about the color of Jerod Mayo's skin. Would you like to guess the one that got the most views and attention and engagement? So if the 2 minute and 30-second clip of the 40-minute press conference is the one that y'all are the ones that are drawn to and keep paying attention to, who's the one that's only focused on race again? And by your logic, the simple acknowledgement that race and color are a thing and seeing racism, which were Jerod Mayo's actual comments, those things make you a racist because that's what you called him. So that would make you racist too, right? You see how fucking stupid that sounds? But that hypocrisy isn't even the funny part to me. The real funny part is I know in the marrow of my bones that y'all don't even believe what you're saying. You're just a parrot robot for whatever right-wing media member that you think is smarter than you. And right-wing media has been running the same playbook since the dawn of time. Right-wing media is the Shanahan system of news, since this is still a football podcast, right? They all run the same plays because they know their consumer base is gonna eat that shit up all the time. And it's been working forever. They don't even respect y'all enough to change up the play calls. It's come up to the line, trips right eye, blame the minorities on one-on-one. Ready? Break. Pro left eye, blame the gays. Ready? Break. Spread, wide, tight. They're just lazy and entitled. On two. Ready? Break. Everybody from Bill O'Reilly to Rush Limbaugh to Glenn Beck to Tammy Lauren, Ben Shapiro, you name them, Tucker Carlson, they've all been running the same playbook. And the other funny part is most of this playbook is based on and rooted in, they know that y'all are not going to do the additional research to see that what they're saying to you is bullshit. Because for y'all that are going off on the whole Jerod Mayo hates white people thing, there's no way in hell that you can listen to that, 50-something second clip of his actual statement, and that is your takeaway. I refuse to believe that. I just refuse to believe it. But right-wing media knows if they give y'all these cute little sayings and they say it with enough conviction, y'all eat that shit up and you little pair of robots just keep on repeating whatever you hear. They're just lazy and entitled. If you stop focusing on race, then racism will end. What do you mean? Black lives matter. All lives matter. Matter of fact, I got this comment. Expect another terrible season and more to come as long as Mayo was the head coach. Dude is too worried about DEI. By the way, I promise you the person who made this comment did not hear the term DEI before the last month, but I digress. That's another one that the right-wing media has made it a point to make an acronym so they can vilify that, because if they said what DEI actually means, which is diversity, equity, and inclusion, saying things like DEI will be the downfall of America will make them sound a little too much like Nazis blatantly. In closing, so I can get back to this football shit. If something as simple as what Jerod Mayo said, which on a revolutionary scale of 1 to Malcolm X is about a 1.5, if that triggered you, which is what happened, you were triggered, then I guess we gotta evaluate who the real snowflakes are now, don't we? Like, these right-wing parrots will literally tell you if you complain about the country, then leave. Let me say that again for you. If you complain about the country that you live in and were born in, leave. If that's not some cult shit, I don't know what is. Another line I kept getting was the NFL, the players are 56% black. All the players are 56% black. Everyone just had that number offhand. Y'all couldn't wait to slam that down like the big joker, huh? When we were talking about fucking coaching, which was the actual topic of discussion. But since y'all got numbers so much, I got my coaching numbers in front of me. Want to hear them? You want to know how many black coaches are in the league? As of last week, there are 5 black coaches in the league. 2 of them were hired in the last week, Jerod Mayo and Antonio Pierce. So at the start of last season, only 3 of the 32 NFL head coaches were black. That is 9% of the league. You want to know how many head coaches all time were black? This is according to WCSX.com. As of February 2023, out of the over 500 coaches all time in the NFL, only 24 of them were black. So 24 out of 500. It's at over 500. But for y'all, I'll lowball it. Out of 24 out of 500, what's that? 4.8%. I'll do you a favor. I'll round up. Let's call it 5. Since y'all just love numbers so goddamn much, I got more for you. You know the amount of teams that have never had a head coach in the history of their franchise? Mind you, the NFL is over 100 years old. There are 13 teams, roughly 40% of the league, that have never had a black head coach that wasn't an interim coach. For y'all that are unfamiliar with the term, the interim coach is, all right, we fired our head coach. We need somebody to steer the ship before we ultimately fire everybody else in the building before the season ends. Throw the black guy in there. Couple really big names on that list too. Lists including the Washington Commanders, formerly known as the Redskins. If you know the racial history of that team, shouldn't surprise you. The Dallas Cowboys, America's team, how fitting. And the New York Giants, who just had their first black starting quarterback a couple years back, and the ownership was so mad about it, they fired the coaching staff the following Monday. True story, look it up. The situation for black coaches in the NFL is so bad, they had to pass legislation just for the coaches to get an interview. That rule was called the Rooney Rule and is defined as such. It was dictated that all NFL teams must interview at least one minority candidate for head coach openings. That was passed 21 years ago. And it was recently expanded, so now they got to interview 2 head coaching candidates. And it was expanded to other front office management positions and blah, 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 blah. So that was 21 years ago. That puts us at 2003. If I remember correctly, that's right after the season that Tony Dungy and Dennis Green got fired when they were the only black coaches in the league at the time. So the NFL had 0 black head coaches. Here we are, 21 years later, and the number went from 0 to 5. What progress. Oh my God, how progressive. To the point where we all know what's going on with the Rooney Rule and how these teams are escaping it. Even the insiders are pointing it out. Albert Breer and Adam Schefter both tweeted out once these teams have interviewed their second black head coaching candidate that they have now fulfilled their Rooney Rule and they can go hire the white man they actually wanted. That's damn near verbatim, minus the white man they actually wanted part. And a lot of fans are mad at them, but bruh, they're doing us a favor because they're just saying the quiet part out loud because we all knew it. And that's not an indictment on these black coaches, by the way, who are, in most cases, the overwhelming majority of them are more than qualified to be head coaches. It is a direct indictment on NFL ownership and their hiring practices because we know that they ain't doing shit but checking a box until they can hire the person they actually want to. But like I've always said on this podcast, I am not here to educate you on how racism works in the year of our Lord 2024. If you don't know by now, it's because you either don't care or you want it to continue. In both cases, fuck you, I hope you die. But to the sane-minded, I have to ask you, how do we go from 56% of the NFL players being black to 5 to 9% of the coaches being black? And that's before we even get to GMs and, God forbid, ownership. If the answer is not racial bias, then what is it? It's not they're not smart enough. Think of all the dumbass coaches that we watch every single week. Can't be because they don't work hard enough. They're professional athletes. They work hard enough to make it all the way to the league. They're not hard enough workers to coach. Come on now. So what could it be? What is this huge roadblock that all these NFL owners just can't get past that is stopping all these black coaches from getting an opportunity? We all know what the answer is, whether you want to admit it or not. Okay. Got it all out. Now I can talk about the actual on-field football. Quick break, and then we're going to get to the NFL playoffs. All right, we are back, and what a incredible weekend of playoff football. Obviously, it is now Wednesday, so I'm not going to do too much rehashing on the weekend. I just got a couple takeaways before we move on to next week, talk about the teams that lost and all that other fun stuff. First, obviously, the Texans and the Ravens. And my main takeaway from this game was the Ravens defense. You know, this is a Steelers Mike Tomlin phrase, but I think it applies to the Ravens. The standard is the standard. I've been watching Ravens football my entire life. My older brother, not only is he my favorite person on the planet, he is also a Ravens fan. My whole life, regardless of the year, there's a certain that's always with the Ravens. It doesn't matter the year, doesn't matter the personnel, doesn't matter the coach. Somehow, some way, the Ravens defense has that same intensity. And I say this with no exaggeration. This might be the best one since that 2000 team, because I'm watching against this Bobby Slowick offense for the Texans and against CJ Stroud. Bill Callahan was just hired for the Tennessee Titans head coaching job, right? And that was supposed to be Bobby Slowick's job. He was the front runner. After playing the Ravens, the Titans were like, you know what? Maybe we should reconsider this. The Ravens are taking away employment opportunities. There's so many purple jerseys flying to the football every single play. Mike McDonald, the defensive coordinator for the Ravens, the moment this season is over, he's going to be the head coach of somebody's team. So Ravens better win the goddamn Super Bowl, because he ain't coming back next year. Because the balance between a team that flies to the football and is also disciplined enough to not fall for all the eye candy of these Shanahanian systems that Bobby Slowick is also off that Shanahan tree, it doesn't happen, which is why I gotta shoot CJ a lot of bail. Granted, I know you lose, the first thing you do is blame the quarterback. I'm Mr. Wins the quarterbacks, that guy, but that's not a catch-all, end-all, be-all statement. It's case by case. And for anyone blaming CJ for that loss, I would like you to go back and watch that game and watch every completion he had was a, damn, first read's not there. Pressure's coming. I got to get out this pocket and make something happen. Every single one. But since we're on the subject of quarterbacks, you've probably heard ad nauseum how great Lamar Jackson was. So y'all know how I feel about Lamar Jackson on this podcast. Love him to death. We're going to talk about that more when we preview the conference championship. Guys, women, and the Technicolor rainbow in between. If you are still on the anti-Lamar Jackson train, I am begging and pleading with you, if it's not for racist reasons. If not, fuck you, you're never going to see the light of day. You are doing yourself a disservice. Give it up. Just enjoy what you're watching. I can't think of anything on this planet that I hate enough that it would deprive me of watching something as fun as it is to watch Lamar Jackson. Like, come on now. You're watching a quarterback where even in the pocket, he's able to slice and dice you. He is elevated to the fact where that is a weapon on par with pretty much every quarterback in the league. And that's not even the thing he does best. And when he does do the thing he does best, which is run in space, the panic it causes a defense, I can only compare it to when Steph Curry's on the Warriors and every time he moves, the entire defense is like, holy shit, where's he going? Because he's running around the court the entire time trying to get an open three. But yes, I implore you, please, dog, again, this is only for the sane-minded. Let it go. Enjoy watching Lamar Jackson. You are doing yourself a disservice. That's enough for Texas Ravens. We're going to talk about Texas a little more when we get to playoff losers. For the Green Bay Packers versus the San Francisco 49ers and NBA season, during the Kings and Warriors series, I talked about something by the name of young nigga syndrome. One day I'll find a better term to call it, but to my current lexicon, there's no better way I can describe it than young nigga syndrome. And here's why. When young teams get in a big spot against a team that's been there before-ish, that doesn't even necessarily mean this team has won a Super Bowl before. It's just a team that's been in big spots. They don't necessarily have what it takes to close it and really bring it home. For the Kings, it was over the course of 7 games, but for the Packers, it was over the course of this game. What do I mean by that? So the Packers go up 21-14 with 5 minutes and 28 seconds left in the third quarter. They had that lead going into the fourth quarter, but the first play of the fourth quarter was the 49ers kicking a field goal, making it 17-21, but the point still stands. The last 4 possessions for the Packers. They had 4 chances to put this game away. This is how those possessions went. The first one was the interception, which led to the field goal drive that the 49ers got. The next one was a punt. The next one was a missed field goal by the rookie kicker. And the last one was the interception where Jordan Love just threw the ball all the way across his body for reasons that are still unclear. The Niners were 0-30 going into those type of situations when they're down, I think it was 7 or more or 5 or more. When they don't have a lead going into the fourth quarter, they have never won a game until that game. Now, I want us to compare that to the Baltimore Ravens drive. The Baltimore Ravens are up 17-10 at the start of the fourth quarter. They know if they score on this drive, going up 24-10 against that young Texans team, the game is over. They know that. The Texans know that. So how did the Ravens respond? 12 plays, 93 yards, 7 minutes drive. They broke the Texans. They broke them. Next drive, Texans go 3 and out. Ravens score again. Final score 31-10. Because the Ravens have been in that spot before. Say what you want about Lamar's playoff record, but taking all them L's taught him, hey, I need to know how to close these things out. And that drive was a close them out drive. The Packers one day will be able to close that game. And a lot of it is going to be due to the fact that they just lost. But that's enough on the Packers. On the 49ers, Brock Purdy and Kyle Shanahan sure tried their best to give the Packers this game. Jesus Christ. Now, the thing with Brock Purdy that I think we all miss is his career trajectory and the role he needs to play have never been aligned. Because he came in as an undrafted rookie last year, had to be thrown in the lineup because all the other quarterbacks got hurt. Right? And he far exceeded expectations. And when you're in a position of exceeding expectations, that's when we love you the most as fans and as media, right? But since you're on a Super Bowl roster, that honeymoon phase ends quickly because the question is no longer, wow, this undrafted rookie's really good. How good can he be in the future? We don't care about your future anymore. You have to win the Super Bowl now. And that's the position Brock Purdy is in right now. And a lot of it's fair. That is a Super Bowl roster, and a lot of that is what placates to his success. But I feel like at some points we forget Brock Purdy's played 25 games. He was the last pick in the draft, bro. If CJ Stroud puts up the numbers Brock Purdy had this year and has a season that Brock Purdy had this year, you will not hear a goddamn thing about the supporting cast around him, about Bobby Slowick's play calling. You won't hear none of that. All we are going to talk about is how great CJ Stroud is. But a lot of it really is expectation. We don't expect CJ Stroud to win a Super Bowl yet because he's not in that position. Brock Purdy is on a Super Bowl team, but he may not be a Super Bowl player yet. We don't know that for sure because they're still in the playoffs. Who knows? But you look at that game we just watched, it's kind of hard to make that argument. And Kyle Shanahan did not help him in the slightest because he kind of feels the way I do because he can't decide whether he believes in Brock Purdy or not. Brock Purdy had 39 pass attempts during that game in the rain where it became very clear very quickly that he cannot grip this football to move it down the field. So in those 39 pass attempts, a lot of it was dump offs. A lot of it was screens and 5-yard ends and things of that nature. And my thing is, okay, so you acknowledge that he can't get the ball down the field right now, right? But you're still putting him out there to continuously try to get the ball out of his hands to throw it when you have Christian fucking McCaffrey. Christian McCaffrey only had 17 carries that whole game. A lot of you on the Brock Purdy side are going to try to vindicate and be like, oh, but that final drive. The final drive was great, but you cannot ignore the fact that they would not have needed that final drive if he wasn't playing like shit. All right, so next game, Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Detroit Lions. My biggest takeaway from this game, Jerod Goff was blitzed 24 times against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Ladies and gentlemen, would you like to guess the amount of times that he was sacked? 0. Fat ass goose egg. They never got him. And that was the key to that game. We knew Jerod Goff struggles under pressure. We have to figure out an answer to this pressure, to this blitz that Tampa Bay sends, or we are fucked and we will lose this game. Ben Johnson pulled that shit off. The offensive line pulled it off. I got to shout out Frank Ragnow, the center for the Lions, who messed up shoulder, messed up ankle, hurt his knee, still kept thugging it out. kept playing in the game with Vita Vea in front of him. That's 350 pounds of superhuman that he had to deal with. Still went right out there and kept it thugging. And I have to say this about Dan Campbell. It's coach hiring season, right? So a lot of you guys are looking for new coaches as it sets. And I know y'all want the flashy play caller. Y'all want the golden boys. All that shit's cute. But if you want to change around some culture, give me the kneecap biter. Give me that guy. You see the Dan Campbell speeches. You see the way this team absolutely adores this man. If you're going to turn around a franchise like the Lions, ain't a scheme in the world that gets you to this point. And I love Ben Johnson. I just gave him his props the last segment. I love Ben Johnson. If you want to change a culture, we finna bite some kneecaps. And this is where the analytics nerds, I think, get it wrong because they try to act like that doesn't matter. No, bruh, that matters. You see it. Jared Goff was a broken man when he got to Detroit. When it started off bad. But as you can see, the last season and a half, it's turned around because of that culture they're setting. Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes, the GM, who, if he doesn't get executive of the year, the NAACP might need to be called in because, oh boy, he cooking. Just based off of getting Sam Laporta and Jahmyr Gibbs in the same draft alone, that man is cooking. But that's what I'm talking about. You need an entire full-blown culture change. Like, I look at the Washington Commanders right now. I look at the Los Angeles Chargers right now. Hell, I look at the Patriots right now. We didn't go get a scheme guy. Love Jerod Mayo. Jerod Mayo is a linebacker. He's a culture guy. D'Amico Ryans, yeah, he's a good defensive scheme guy. He calls the plays and whatnot, but he's a culture guy. Give me the culture guy every time. We can find people to call plays. Those guys grow on trees these days, apparently. And y'all are willing to call any young white man who calls plays a genius. So, hey, we can find one of those. Guys that can set a culture that these players can actually believe in and cling to their every words. Yeah, nah, you don't get that every day. The Kansas City Chiefs and the Buffalo Bills, the game of the week. Everyone was looking forward to it. Game of the day, game of the weekend, game of the year. The Bills started off that game absolutely gashing the Kansas City Chiefs on the ground. I'm reading a Warren Sharp tweet right here. The Bills were absolutely destroying the Chiefs on the ground. They had 94 rushing yards at 6.3 yards a carry with 43 minutes remaining in the game. They ended up going 182 total yards on 39 carries. I'm going to sound like such an offensive lineman when I say this, but here's where they lost the game. They stopped running the goddamn ball. When the Chiefs went up 27-24, it was 14 minutes left in the game. They had 169 yards at that point on 33 carries. They were getting 5.1 yards a carry at that point. They only rushed the ball 6 more times. One of them were the Damar Hamlin fake punt, but gotta count it. 3 of them were a Josh Allen scramble, one of which was the fumble that by the grace of God they were able to recover. And that's kind of what, in my preview, I said Josh Allen's going to refer to who he's always been in those pressurized moments. Late in the game, he wants the ball in his hands and he wants to play hero ball. Just told you, with 14 minutes left in the fourth quarter, after you've been whooping their ass in a run game all game long, they had 3 more possessions to end that game. Turnover on downs, punt, missed field goal. But even if they would have made that field goal, or if he would have hit Stephon Diggs or that shot to the end zone, all they would have done was give Mahomes more time to go beat him again. If the field goal was made, there was 1:47 left in the game. That's what? 1:34 more than it took him to beat y'all last time? That's what I'm saying. That needed to be a ball control drive. You needed to establish a run that game. But that's not how the Josh Allen thing works. And that's not me saying he's at fault for losing the game. Again, if you listen to this podcast, you know I'm not a blame one person for a loss. I'm not a blame one person for a loss. That's not how the game works. But I could have told you from the get-go, if you would have asked me, hey, going into the fourth quarter, the run game's working all game long, but this is a gotta-have-it drive, and they have a shit ton of time left on the clock. How do you think this is going to go? I'm like, oh, the only person running this ball is Josh Allen. Their last 2 rush attempts were by Josh Allen. On the Chiefs side, though, look, man, the Chiefs are the Chiefs. Like, I'm going to talk about them more when we get to the conference preview, but the Chiefs are the Chiefs. It is what it is. We know they were going to win that game. The whole crux of me picking the Chiefs, I had to frame it as I don't think Josh Allen has it. But really it came down to, do I really expect Josh Allen to be able to overcome this Chiefs defense? And do I trust that more than I trust Patrick Mahomes' ability to figure this shit out and make just enough plays to win this game? The answer to that was obvious. All right, now we got to get to these playoff losers and shit. So the Buccaneers, they have a rookie defensive tackle by the name of Kalijah Cansey, who really shined in these playoffs against two of the best offensive lines in football that he had to play back-to-back in the Eagles and the Lions. And I think keeping him next to Vita Vea, keep your eye on that for next season. They're going to be able to move a lot of people off the ball. And the thing is with Baker played so well that, hey man, I don't know if he's franchise tag eligible, but if he isn't, the Bucs might have a hard time keeping him. Like, he might have got himself a little bidding war there. They need to figure it out with Mike Evans as well. I don't know what that beef is. I don't know why they don't want to pay their best receiver in franchise history, but whatever he asks for, give it to him. He deserves it. With the Bills, I have a lot of takeaways for the Bills that I'll save for later in the year because I think they're going to have to make a big move, a big change, a big something. Maybe it's Sean McDermott. Maybe it's a GM. Maybe they trade for some star on defense. I don't know, but I just don't see how you have one goal, which is beat the Kansas City Chiefs. You know that's your goal, and you have now failed 3 times. You fired your offense coordinator in the season because you thought you were going to miss the playoffs altogether, and then you come back next year and roll it all out again. That's not how this works. There's no way in hell Stephon Diggs is on this team next year. You can book that now. But I will say, I do have to make this point. This is less about the Chiefs, more about everything else. Every day, y'all show me that a lot of you are very casual fans and you do not deserve to be in certain conversations. When I saw the picture of the Bills fan bawling his eyes out because they lost another game and he heard the words wide right on a field goal again after the Scott Norwood play, what was that, 1990 or 1991, whatever year? And he's bawling his eyes out, and I see a bunch of you like, oh, that's a man who lost money on his parlay. Dog, y'all don't get it, bro. Some people just love their team. Some people are just really passionate about their teams, bro. When I see the helmet catch from David Tyree, I still feel like that 11-year-old boy that bawled his eyes out that night. That shit stays with you, bro. The Lions fans crying their ass off when they got their first playoff win since the 1991 year. And when they were bawling their eyes out again because they're going to the NFC Championship this year. People making jokes about it, bro. You don't get it. You don't get it. You're not that passionate of a fan. You're not a real fan. And that's okay. But stay out this conversation because this ain't for you. All right, with the Packers and the Texans, I can group them both together, and this is why. You know you have a guy. You know you have a quarterback. You are in rarefied air. You have a quarterback. You have a coach. The biggest myth in the world is a championship window. I can give you a couple examples right now. Legion of Boom Seahawks. They won a Super Bowl. They're all young. You're like, shit, this could be the next dynasty to challenge the Patriots. They lost to the Patriots the next year. Malcolm Butler played. The team broke after that. Never the same again. The Joe Burrow Bengals. They make it to a Super Bowl, beat the Chiefs. That was 2 years ago. So remains to be seen how it ends up. But losing the Super Bowl, lose to the Chiefs the next year. Joe Burrow gets hurt at the top of the year. He now is on a big contract. They're going to be in cap hell. T. Higgins might leave in the offseason. They also have to pay Jamar Chase. You don't know who else they're going to lose in the process. Josh Allen and the Bills. We just talked about it. They've been bumping their head on the ceiling this whole time, and they have one of the most talented quarterbacks we've ever seen and one of the 3 to 5 best quarterbacks in the league. You would think they have a championship window, but they got some guys in front of them, and they have to make moves to strike so they can improve. You guys are in a position right now where quarterbacks are on cheap enough contracts where you don't have to wait. The time to strike is now. Don't wait. Now. If you're the Packers, you just saw that Jordan Love can go toe-to-toe with Dak Prescott, and we talked all year long about how much of a juggernaut the 49ers are. Outside of those 2 egregious picks, Jordan Love was carving them boys up. So the 2 best teams in your conference. 3 best because he beat the Lions on Thanksgiving. You've seen Jordan Love do them dirty. You know your guy can do it. You got to go in this offseason. You have no choice. Don't wait. And with the Texans, the hill is a lot steeper because you're in the same conference as Mahomes, Jackson, Burrow, Allen. Like, best case scenario for CJ Stroud, he can get to maybe the 4th best quarterback in his own conference. So if you're the Texans, you got to surround him with enough talent where 4th best is plenty good enough. In closing, the Super Bowl window is a fucking myth. Don't get caught up in that. Strike now, or in 5 years, we could be looking at y'all and saying, damn, remember how promising the Packers and Texans were? It's a damn shame they never were able to get a ring out of it. All right, quick break, and then we're going to get to the conference championship. I can't tell y'all how excited I am for Kansas City versus Baltimore. I've been looking forward to it all year long, and if tickets weren't fucking $800 a pop, I would be going to this game. I don't know if I'm confirming my own biases for both of these games, but I'm struggling to find a reason to pick against the teams that I want to see win. My dream Super Bowl I want to see is Detroit versus Baltimore, because that's the best stories. Lamar finally makes it to a Super Bowl. The Detroit Lions finally make it to a Super Bowl, right? But I'm struggling to find reasons that won't happen because I don't want to just go into it saying, all right, I want this to happen. That's going to happen. Because that's not really how this analysis shit works. Here's where I'm at with the Ravens. A lot of the things the Texans did well on defense are the things the Chiefs do well, which is the blitzes, disguise the coverages. They're great in the secondary, so they run a lot of man, can stay tight to those receivers. But the Ravens solved that at halftime of the game. And as much as Steve Spagnuolo is more advanced of a defensive play caller than DeMeco Ryans is, there's only but so many answers for Lamar Jackson. Another thing for the Chiefs defense that was concerning, like I outlined earlier, the Chiefs never really stopped the Bills' run game. They never found an answer. The Bills just stopped running the ball. The Bills were guaranteed 5 yards a pop. And as good as Josh Allen is at running the football, there is nobody at quarterback who is as good as running the football as Lamar Jackson. That is not a good sign for Kansas City. You got Willie Gay, who got hurt the first play of the game for the Bills game. We don't know how he's going to look coming into this week. That is their spy guy that they use to spy quarterbacks. But even with Lamar Jackson, this ain't Madden where the CPU automatically follows your quarterback back to back. Your linebacker still has to run step for step with the fastest quarterback we've ever seen. Good luck. And you may think if you're the Ravens that Lamar Jackson has to go out there and go stat for stat, possession for possession versus Patrick Mahomes. If you think that, I will point you in the direction of the aforementioned Josh Allen and the Bills and see how well that has worked out for him in big spots. But the counterpoint, let's go look at Joe Burrow. Statistically, he's worse in every category except for the one that matters, wins and losses. And on the other side of the ball, the Ravens defense have been the best in the world this year. And if you're telling me that the Kansas City offense is going to be reliant on Isaiah Pacheco being super physical and running through guys, the Ravens are a lot of things. A team you can run through, not one of them. So best of luck on that one. But the thing that keeps me from counting the Chiefs out entirely, and Bomani Jones says this, and I try to fight it because I don't like doing the comparing current players to greats so I can enjoy them in a moment. But Bomani Jones religiously calls Patrick Mahomes Jordan. Like, hey, that's just Jordan on that sideline. A lot of y'all ain't going to be able to get a ring because y'all just playing at the same time as Jordan. It is what it is. And I wonder, is that just going to be the case for Lamar Jackson? I hope not, but I like to look at Patrick Mahomes' career path in comparison to Tom Brady. Not that I'm comparing them as players because that's incredibly unfair to Patrick Mahomes. And Chiefs fans, I want y'all to keep that in mind too. Stop comparing Patrick Mahomes to Tom Brady. You're doing him a disservice. Stop it. Enjoy what you got right now. Tom Brady, this is going to sound like I'm complaining. I promise I'm not. In 23 years, he only went to 10 Super Bowls, right? There were still 13 other years where he did not go. And even in the 10 he did go, he only won 7 of them. There were 3 years where he didn't win. I'm sure if you look at how great Tom Brady is, in 100 years, we're not going to be able to believe he lost to Nick Foles and Eli Manning. As great as you are, it's not like you're impossible to beat. So to me, this feels like either Baltimore wins by 20 or Kansas City wins by 3. And for y'all that think that Lamar is going to be able to save us from Taylor Swift in the Super Bowl, wait till you find out who's performing next year. Because if you think that's not signed, sealed, and delivered, it's yours by now, you are crazy. All right, last game. The Detroit Lions versus the San Francisco 49ers. I don't know why we can't just move this to Detroit. San Francisco doesn't have that great of a home field advantage. You Silicon Valley nerds aren't as great of a home crowd as the Detroit Lions fans are. Y'all know it. I know it. Goodell knows it. I don't know why we're lying about this. But again, I'm struggling to find a reason that the 49ers can beat the Lions. Because maybe it's because I really want the Lions to win, but the Lions blitzed Baker Mayfield on 31% of his dropbacks. That was about 14 of them. They got 9 pressures on them. Brock Purdy does not respond well to pressure. On the other side of the ball, since we're talking about pressure, The 49ers were unable to sack Jordan Love, and he was clean all night long. The Lions might have the best offensive line in the league. If not bare minimum, they're damn sure better than the Packers. And the Packers were able to gash the Niners in the run game in ways that we really haven't seen anyone else do. The Lions are significantly better at running the ball than the Packers are. So everything the 49ers are bad at, the Lions are great at. Add in the fact that they may not have Deebo Samuel next week, which I'm sure he's going to try to play. But if you have a 50% Deebo Samuel, how much of a Deebo do you really have? You know what I mean? Like, at what point are you getting diminished returns? Because the same thing that got him hurt is the same reason you want Deebo out there, is the fact that he's a never say die type player. But if he does the never say die thing next week, he'll be knocked out the game in the first quarter again. I don't know, man. I don't know. I'll be able to preview this a little more later in the week, especially on game day. Right now, this podcast is getting way too long, so at some point I'm going to have to cut this off. But I am really looking forward to this weekend. I love conference championship week. I know a lot of people say divisional round weekend is the best weekend of football, and maybe it is because 4 games and two minimum are guaranteed to be competitive. But these games right here, oh man, these games change franchises. These games change legacy. Like, losing in a conference championship and losing in a Super Bowl are very different legacy-wise, as far as how we see you as a player, as far as how we see your season success-wise. And you can feel that in the game in a way that in the Super Bowl you can't really feel, because it's not in front of a home crowd, because the Super Bowl tickets cost $1 million and home fans typically don't pay that or travel to the city. So that environment, the stakes, the level of play, I love conference championship weekend. I cannot wait. I cannot fucking wait for this week. I'm so fucking excited. Anyways, thank you so much for listening to the Kev BKA Beloved Show. I've been Kev BKA Beloved. We'll be back next week. Follow me on all socials at BKA Beloved so you can see me actually preview these games. Thanks for listening.